And ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
And we're back with our Twilight Zone Top 50. This is our 15th episode of our Twilight Zone Top 50. Yep. And we are doing, as we've talked about, jumping around. We're going back now to Series 1 with another episode that concludes, like Third from the Sun, with reused footage from Forbidden Planet, except this time, this is largely reported to be one of the best episodes of all time. This is The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. This is one of the ones that you had or hadn't seen before, Jay.
I have not.
And how would you best describe what occurs in The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street?
Oh, okay. How would I describe what happens? Okay, well, something flies overhead. Kind of. I mean, you don't see it, do you? You
just get the flashing on the faces.
See everyone reacting to it. Yeah. Something flies overhead that they say.
Jay's currently frozen, and in a logical world, I would choose to believe that he's frozen. But of course, this isn't a logical world. This is the Twilight Zone. This must mean that he's not frozen, and in actuality, he is one of the aliens. And we're back. Jay, what happened?
Yeah. I think there was an alien.
I must have been aliens. There is absolutely no logical reason why something like that, or something like a light turning on, could occur.
If I look away from it, it starts working again.
If I turn away, nobody knows, Jay. Nobody knows.
No. Your wife has told me what you've been up to.
Yeah, Olivia told me that your Mac turns off. Ooh. We're skirting around it already, but the basic premise is some sort of flashing light goes across Maple Street, and we get Mr. Van Horten, who leaves to go check on Floral Street, and then immediately little Tommy the shit comes and says, little Tommy the shit says, "Oh, Mr. Brand, don't leave." Why Tommy, why not leave? The wonderful Claude Atkins. And he says, Aikens, sorry, and he goes, "Why don't leave?" Well, it's what they want, it's what they want, the aliens, and the only people who can leave the street are the family that look exactly like us that came before. And so, okay, and we're off. And it's a wonderfully, after that initial exposition dump, it's a wonderfully taught paranoid thriller where bit by bit, family by family, those paranoias grow and grow and grow until quite literally everybody shoots one another or bricks one another. I don't want to start on a negative note, but I was listening to a podcast on this episode the other day, and somebody was talking about how they feel it would have benefited from being one of the hour-long episodes. Do you feel that this is slightly rushed? And is this the rare case where actually I would like to see the 45-minute version of this?
I mean, I would like to see it, but that doesn't mean that I would I'd have to see it to judge whether or not I think so, because I think it worked pretty well as like a half an hour kind of play.
And I think the initial exposition dump of Tommy being a child can be written off as slightly stupid, but also is the point. Is that because they write him off. Claude goes, "Oh well, we wouldn't want any of that, would we, Tommy?" Very good. And then they dismiss it, and then by the time 5 minutes has walked past, and by the time that Les across the street's car starts working, maybe, we're always looking for something to believe in.
Yep.
What a great episode. I don't want to, there's a reason why this is one of the classics.
Genuinely. I thoroughly enjoyed every second. And right, I'd heard of the episode so much.
Yeah.
As a reference, a crap ton. And I was convinced that the twist would be that there was no aliens. And then the actual twist is that there is aliens.
There is aliens. Do you think halfway through that it could be? I mean, again, that's another debate. Is it better without aliens, or is it better with? I happen to think it's kind of the exact same sort of. I remember 10 Cloverfield Lane. Everyone was having the same thing.
Yeah.
Of, is it actually better if she gets out and there is no aliens, or is it better if it's ambiguous? I happen to think in this version, the Twilight Zone version, it's a lovely kicker. And I made a very, a sly joke to you the other day saying, do you think the audience will understand? Oh, let's do this anyway. But it is that sort of speaking out loud that Serling does sometimes. But in his words, it works so well. So we begin. Maple Street, USA, late summer, tree-lined little word of front porch gliders, barbecues, the laughter of children, and the bell of an ice cream vendor. At the sound of the roar and the flash of light, it will be precisely 6:43 a.m. p.m. on Maple Street. And then and then before the monsters came. So it's the complete idyllic, perfect suburban street. Obviously, me and you are both students of Lynch. We're not unaccustomed to the Blue Velvet parody dissection of the perfect idyllic suburban street. And this obviously takes that to another level. I also think that there's something about the classicness of it in that it's literally on the MGM backlot, and everybody looks like stock trade actors of the time, and you've got the perfect families, and it comes off like some Twilight Zones do in that 25-minute blast of painting in absolute broad strokes, but somehow pulling it all off.
Yep.
So let's touch on again the fact that, Serling was a political writer and, started off writing extremely political teleplays that he couldn't get on. He famously wrote 2 different drafts of an Emmett Till script that he could get neither of them on without sanitizing them to such an extent that they might as well not have been the Emmett Till story. And so he had to move, he had to move into sci-fi and horror. And this is not even veiled. This is his crucible, in the sense that this is his telling, a story about the McCarthyism, about the blacklist, about the Cold War, about the paranoia. In a very similar sense to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Now, there's been a lot of talk, I've read critical opinion on the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, in that both sides can watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers, in that if you are pro-blacklist, in that the body snatchers are real. So you can actually say, yes, there is a communist threat and they are real. Or you can watch it and say, actually, the whole point is that we're driving each other apart. Whereas this, and I'm not to negate any version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, to be honest, really. I love that and the 70s version. But this has a more clean cut, with that clean cut alien ending of the whole point is, all they did was flash some lights, and over the space of a night, they can, get rid of that street of people. Did you ever watch The Invitation? Horror movie where he's got a beard and he goes to his ex-wife's party.
No, I haven't.
It's good, and I don't want to ruin the twist.
Oh. Okay.
It's very good. John Carroll Lynch has a great scene.
I love him.
Yeah, it's very, very good, and I'm not going to ruin the twist, but it has a very, very similar twist to this, in the sense of we think it's a story about this one street, and I am kind of ruining the twist, I guess, but the events that happen in that house and the events that happen on this street, the reveal, especially is the Serling's novelization really makes this clear in that there are hundreds of other aliens doing this exact same thing at the exact same time, and it will build and it will build and it will build over, that night into absolute chaos. And it's, yeah, I wouldn't mind maybe a little, complete zoom out and seeing the lights of another couple of streets. Maybe could have worked. Or do you prefer the suggested slow build that they're going to do a street a day, a street a week?
I think I definitely do prefer that. I think I prefer the the build up, as you said, because that's how it starts, so it takes root.
Yeah. Mob psychology. So yeah, complete mob psychology. And I do love that it is just that soft flash. And they can tell themselves that it was a meteorite, and they can, and beyond that point, it is just I've spaced these weirdly because we've just finished very close watching Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up? And that's another one where the Martian, the alien, tricks people by doing just annoying little things like turning the jukebox on and off. In this, turning the car on and off, turning the lights up and down, flipping a salt shaker, all things that could be attributed to.
I know it's great that he does the little things that the little bits of paranoia instead of just the I don't know, they blew up, I don't know, London or something.
Yeah.
Because like it's making more clear of a point when he's using actual paranoia over, I don't know, the toaster going off.
Even with even though it, again, like we talked about, it's only just reused props from Forbidden Planet. I love at the end the guy with his dials, it looks a bit like a keyboard, and you can imagine that has everybody's lights because it is so perfectly cued. Especially once we realize that it is by design, in the sense of the minute they turn on Les is the minute his car goes, and the minute they turn on Charlie is the minute his lights goes. And you could see that as bad screenwriting or whatever, but then just that one prop in the ending, it makes everything just click into perfect fashion. Again, slow build, very realistic things. It could all be attributed down to a power cut. The old woman's phone. I can't get my phone to work, and honey, the stove is off, and all that sort of thing can just be completely attributed without any other thing. And again, straight away, we get him leaving so early that we can forget about him. Mr. Van Horten leaving to go to Floral Street, and that wonderful zoom. It's not even a zoom, I don't think. The camera's there, and he just walks past the camera, and we see his hammer. And interesting little image. Okay, he's wearing overalls, and it's early enough that we can forget. Did you forget until the close-up of the hammer, or when he started walking down the street, did you remember it was Mr. Van Horten?
I think I forgot.
And again, but also, great work from director Ron Winston in this. It's just completely silhouetted. They shoot him. They go over. Oh my God! It was Mr. Van Horten.
Yeah.
I love that they show us the hammer before Charlie shoots.
But then, I forgot. But then I also knew there wouldn't be anyone that it should be.
Oh yeah. But and that little flash of the hammer before Charlie shoots, so that we can get with the gunshot that immediate guttural response of rather than the slow build. So very early on we get the kids Tommy's theory, and they send somebody ahead that looks like humans, and it's all very neat and it's all very laughable until immediately Les's car starts behind him after he walked away, and it's like, you saw me, it just started, and what happens here? And
I wonder if the aliens made the comic that the aliens definitely made the comic that the kid read.
I like it. I like that, Jay.
They definitely planted it. Yeah, they definitely did.
Doop-a-doop-a-doo, don't mind me, I'm Mr. Mailman. Ooh, here,
You should
kids.
read this comic.
There's a man walks around the street giving out comic books to children. Well, I want to see the Twilight Zone episode where the twist is that he gets arrested for well, not for molestation, for like suggested, like for just like,
Yeah.
he's been sent to distribute these paraphernalias for paranoia, and then they arrest him. There's the guy's back again. He keeps giving comic books to kids. You got to get somebody down here.
He's just waiting for the right one.
Yeah, and Tommy's the right one. And immediately we get Claude Akins with the line, "Wait a minute, now let's not be a mob." And again, it's that great thing we saw it in on Thursday We Leave for Home. We saw it in Will the Martian Please Stand Up. That initial sort of thesis statement of, wait a minute, we are not going to become a mob. We are educated people. We are real, not really. What's the word I'm trying to say? Sort of, people. Civilized. We are civilized people. We're not going to be subjected to mob mentality and let this become what it possibly could be. Yes. But then immediately, Les's star turns off. And what's the first thing Charlie with his wonderful shirt of LA monuments, he says, he was always an oddball, him and his whole family. And it's like, what are you basing this on?
Okay, this poor man. Poor guy. Like he wasn't even involved in the conversation really till now.
Exactly, and that was his biggest downfall, that he was just over there. And Charlie, and then again, initially, Charlie is straight in, like deep end, fully in. And so immediately Claude, I keep calling him Claude, Mr. Brand, said, who made you self-appointed hanging judge? And we've seen this character before. He is the absolute voice of reason. He is the good and honest man that we look up to. And this episode doesn't really have the downfall that, like, on a Thursday we Leave for Home has, in the sense of we don't see really Brand's devolution. Devolution's not a word. Devolving into madness himself, which I think. And eventually we can only presume that he is, consumed by the violence, whether that is just to protect his family, or whether in those final moments he believes it too, or whether he's just completely panicked. And I just love the stupidity of the little things that they hang their entire theories on. You're always in your basement working on that radio. None of us have ever seen a radio. And
you go outside at night and look at the stars.
Yeah, you're probably looking home, you son of a bitch. And it's hey Dad, and I love the close up to Les drinking his milk, and I don't know why that's never become like a reaction meme, like Michael Jackson eating his popcorn, like just I'm just gonna drink my milk, and do you know why? Maybe Mr. Brand is an alien, because he was actually working on a radio that can make you time travel.
Oh, shut up.
As we'll find out in our next episode.
Okay, Saturday.
And then the shadow walking. We get Mr. Van Horten arriving, and the immediate thought, it's the monster. And Charlie shoots him dead, close up on the hammer. And what's the first thing we hear? And immediately makes me think of, we go back to the McCarthy hearings, we go back to the things that we hear time and time again when this sort of, these sorts of riots, these sorts of anything come about. The first thing that Charlie says, I was only trying to protect my home. What is the first thing, people against immigrants jump to, people against anything jump to? It's about protecting their family. It's about protecting their home. No matter what horrible thing you're doing, if you use that as your justification, there is something in the back of everybody's minds that understands that. I understand the need to protect one's home. I understand the need to protect one's family. And the fact that you did this to do that, whether I agree with it or not, I can understand what you're saying, but in this case, it's wrong. And again, I'm sure the biggest thing that people said Cold War wise would be was about protecting one's home.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yeah. Then the lights go on in Charlie's house, and then Les turns on Charlie despite being turned on himself. I love that Les has no voice of reason. You know, he's not like, "Whoa, guys, slow down here." You know, he forgets immediately that he was was being picked on. Little subtle bit here when Charlie falls into a rose bush.
Yeah.
I like that. And then it builds and it builds and it builds. You know, I didn't blow the lights out. I swear I didn't. Somebody's pulling a gag or something. A gag. There's a man lying dead in the street, and you killed him. And then we get the final straw, which is Charlie, whether he believes it or not, whether it's out of desperation or not. It's the kid, Tommy. He's the one, and that explodes.
Yep.
And you know, again, we go back to the McCarthy hearings, you know, letting people off if they name others. And what is that but Charlie blaming the kid? And then we get the close-ups on the running feet. We get the lights on and off in all the homes. We get the close-ups on all the accusations. It was you, it was you, it was you. It was that. Everybody screams and grab a brick, grab a hammer, grab a gun. And then we zoom out, and it's madness, and it's madness, and it's madness. And then we get, do you understand the procedure now? Just stop a few of their machines and radios and telephones and lawnmowers. Lawnmowers? Really? Didn't see that part.
The lawnmowers.
The lawnmowers. Okay. God damn it, my lawnmower's bust. And
my lawnmower's chasing me down the lawn.
Yeah, it suddenly turns into Maximum Overdrive or Lawnmower Man. And this pattern is always the same, with a few variations. They pick the most dangerous enemy they can find, and it's themselves. All we need to do is sit back and watch. Then I take it this place, this Maple Street, is not unique. By no means. Their world is full of Maple Streets, and we'll go from one to the other and let them destroy themselves. One to the other, one to the other, one to the other. And again, it is that broad strokes writing that I think is aided by the 50s aesthetic, and there's nothing like it. And it's, again, costumes being reused by Forbidden Planet, and the literal final shot is from Forbidden Planet, but it's upside down and it's backwards, and it's been printed in black and white instead of the original color of that film. And there we have it. And again, instead of that, if it ended there, that would be kind of kitschy. That would be kind of, you know, not on the nose. Well, yeah, very much on the nose. But then Serling comes in, and it makes me think of He's Alive, which is the one with Dennis Hopper, and it's the one with the ghost of Hitler, which isn't a very good episode. I think it could have been a very good 22-minute one. The problem is that it's 45 minutes, and they play it like a twist. Like they play the reveal the reveal the Hitler thing far too late, and he's like, he's a shadowy figure and he's got a bowl cut. Who do we think it's gonna be? And then and he's literally a neo-Nazi, and you're like, okay, interesting. But as kitschy as that episode is, it then ends with this astoundingly beautiful paragraph in Serling's closing narration, as does this one. The tools of conquest do not necessarily come with bombs and explosions and fallout. There are weapons that are simply thoughts, attitudes, prejudices to be found only in the minds of men. For the record, prejudices can kill and suspicion can destroy, and a thoughtless, frightened search for a scapegoat has a fallout all of its own for the children and the children yet unborn. And the pity of it is that these things cannot be confined to the Twilight Zone. Now,
fantastic.
I mean, that's absolutely astounding. I don't think in my entire life I could write 2 sentences like that. And it's put on, I don't want to say tacked on, but it is put on as a bookend on what can be referred to by many, and I'm sure is, as kitschy, dated 50s sci-fi. And this is
Yeah.
where we get
Yeah.
much of Serling's best work.
Yeah.
Any
It's
sort of
fantastic.
final
Absolutely
thoughts,
quality
Jay?
episode together.
Any final thoughts, Jay,
Uh,
on
no, I just really enjoyed the was it 50s still? No, it's 1960. I
early,
really
yeah.
enjoyed the just the very classical 60s delivery of the lines. That's kind of stilted, kind of not. Especially with the aliens. It really fit with the aliens. As they're going back up one to the other, one to the other, one to the other. It's like, yeah, okay.
And again, it has that it has that thing of they get into the spaceship. Okay, yeah, one to the other. All right, we get a long flight.
Okay.
One to the other, one to the other,
Okay, buddy.
one to the other.
Okay, buddy.
Okay, get your point.
Yeah.
This was one of the ones that was remade when they did the Twilight Zone again.
Yeah, I just saw that as well.
Yeah. Now this was remade
on the
in. Let me get you the exact year because it's very important with what I'm about to tell you. It was made in
2003.
2003. This is the big thing that's important for me to tell you because the difference between the two is that the remake is more about the fear of terrorism, very much made in the aftermath of 9/11. So when the power surge happens in the remake, it is caused not by aliens, but instead by the government. Specifically the United States Army, experimenting on how small towns react to the fear of terrorism. In the end, the neighborhood takes all of its anger and frustration on a family who left their house after the power surge occurred, thinking that they caused it since they still have power. The residents all fail the test miserably, as did all the other inhabitants of every other street they tested. So, and again, it's very much the sort of painting broad strokes and saying out loud what doesn't need to be said that it's all there in the original episode.
Yeah, it's just blitzing through any allegory or metaphors at all and just going, yeah, what if we just got rid of that and made it like blatant to the point is like, I don't even know how to
We've said this time and time again with 2019 Twilight Zone in that did very much the same thing. Like the Me Too episode wasn't an episode about evil men or whatever, and then we watch it and go, oh well, this is very similar to what's happening now. It ends with it's all very much in the face and said out loud, and it's not needed when the writing and everything else speaks for itself in the way that this does. So I've sent you the ranking. I mean, this is pretty high. I think it's probably I think I prefer Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up. I think it has a more varied ensemble and more fun characters. However, I think that as classic as Time Enough at Last is, I would put this above Time Enough at Last and make this our new number 5.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Any disagreements or
no?
I think that's a good little spot.
Yeah.
Fab
episode.
Very good episode. Oh, the Real Martian, Please Stand Up. Takes the place on Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. So for our next episode, again, we're moving around, and we're jumping to the series 2 for one of the, I can't remember, 6 or 5 taped episodes that they did. We've touched on Night of the Meek already. Have we done any of the other ones? I think we may have done. I think we did The Mask, It's a Good Life in Praise of Pip. No, we haven't. So I'm a liar. But anyway, we're doing one of the taped episodes this time from series 2, and that will be Static. Yeah. So we'll be, I mean, me and Jay are going to take 5 minutes and then do that. But for you fine people, it'll be a week. So enjoy that as such. Jay, thank you very, very much. And watch out for any flashing lights because they can cause sunspots.